Welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast, the photo imaging industry's leading news source. Here's your host, Gary Pageau.
The Dead Pixel Society podcast is brought to you by Mediaclip, Photo Finale, and Advertech Printing. Hello again and welcome to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. I'm your host, Gary Pageau, and today we're joined by Joaquin Quenca Abela, the CEO of the Freepik Company, coming to us from the south of Spain. Hello, Joaquin. How are you today?
Hello, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. For those of our listeners who aren't familiar with the Freepik Company, can you give us a short explainer of what the company is and when it started and who is involved?
Okay, so I think that the short version is we are a site of stock images. We were born as a site that was focused on illustrations. And then we started doing icons, photos, and presentations.
Sure.
Okay, so I mean, you can define us maybe by our competitors. You can think of people like Shutterstock, Adobe Stock, which would be like the natural competitors.
Okay.
And you ask, where do we come from? We are actually based in South Spain. So we are a little bit an outlier there. We were a bootstrap company, and this is because of necessity. Like here, there is not that much VC money. So the only way to start was to start with our own revenues.
Sure.
And actually, we actually started the company because we didn't have any revenues, and we had trouble finding illustrations. So we actually started as a search engine of other people's illustrations, and we created it for us. We were doing websites, and we needed illustrations, and it was a hassle to find free illustrations. So that's actually how we started the company.
Well, that's how a lot of successful businesses get started. Is the founders see a need for their own personal use, and they realize, hey, it's a business. But you personally, you're not a stranger to the photo industry, correct? You had experience before you started this company.
You're right. Like a few years before that, that's ancient times. But in 2005, I actually started a photo community. It was Panoramio. So in this site, people shared geolocated photos, and the idea was to show the world to other people through your camera. And the cool thing about Panoramio is that we got a deal with Google, and our photos were directly integrated in Google Maps and in Google Earth. And after a few months, actually, Google acquired the company. And for a while, that was actually the only way to get your photos in Google Earth and Google Maps. And so I spent a few years working at Google in Zurich, actually. And then I came back to Spain. I met Alejandro, a co-founder in Freepik, and Pablo, and we started actually a couple of companies. This was not the first one.
Sure.
And one thing led to the other. Here we are now.
So you were doing websites or something, and then you realized, shoot, there isn't a great place to get graphics for this. So what was the first iteration of that company? Was it Freepik itself, or which one of the verticals that you have?
It was Freepik itself. That was basically it. Like, we were doing websites. One of them is very popular, actually. It's a website about soccer. And we needed illustrations, and we were on a budget. So, and we were kind of cheap, so to say.
Sure. Yeah, we were bootstrapped. You have to do what you have to do, right?
So we were fishing for free illustrations, and at the end of the day, we had like a collection of like 15 sites that we knew had free illustrations, and that was it. That was like the whole universe of free illustrations. So the first product was, let's just make it easier to consume this content that is there, right? So we did a search engine just to search on those sites, and we actually made it public because it was easier to make it private.
Sure.
Okay, so it was really, really unexpected. It was, it started as a weekend project.
Yeah.
Very quickly, it turned into a 1 month project. You know how this thing goes. Okay. And then we launched it, and we actually started to get traffic, which was a nice surprise. So to sustain the server costs, we put some ads there, and then we got more and more people. It became very popular quickly. And then we got an email from Shutterstock, and they asked us to put a link on our site to their content. So here's the idea. We started to get a business model there. It's
Right.
like people were searching for free content, okay? But there was not that much. The quantity was very limited. Yeah. And the quality, everything was limited there. So the idea is you were searching for something, and the first row was going to be content by Shutterstock. So if you saw something that you liked on the paid content, the premium side, so to say, and you got no results on the free stuff, very naturally people were clicking on the Shutterstock link, we're going to Shutterstock, and they were purchasing there. So in a way, Shutterstock was our premium site, okay?
Sure.
In a way, okay, and that's how we started.
So you were more at that point, you were more of an aggregator, correct?
Exactly. We didn't have any capacity to create content or anything like that back then. We were too small.
So then you started placing some ads to kind of build some revenue. And then what was the next step in the evolution of the company then? Because you're obviously not doing that now. You've realized, there's a need for this content, but like you said, probably some of it isn't very good, or it's basically a way to upsell people. So what was the next iteration?
So we got an issue, actually. So we started doing that. We became pretty popular. And then one day, it was one of the sites that we were indexing. He reached out to us and he said, "Hey guys, I don't want to be there. Please take down my content." Okay. And it was an issue because in total we had 3 million images indexed, and this other site was the owner of 1 million out of the 3 million. So we lost overnight like 30% of the content.
Right.
Okay. So at this point, what we did was a hack on the number of total images that we had in the PHP code. We actually added up plus 1 million to the results, so that people didn't notice that much.
Right. Yeah.
But we realized that we were on shaky grounds. Okay.
Right.
So that's when we decided that to own the whole user experience, and to own our destiny, so to say, we needed to create the content. We needed to be the owners of the content.
Right.
And the unexpected benefit is that we were struggling to improve the user experience on the site, okay? But at the end of the day, we only had any impact until the user clicked on the image and went to the third-party site.
Right.
And there it was out of our hands, right? And the experience was really not great. Okay, those people, those free sites, they were quite often like spammers. The content was not always legal, so that we didn't knew at the time. Okay, so in general, the experience was not really great. So when
when someone clicked through, they basically were leaving your environment and going to another environment. So they were actually using this modern, attractive interface and basically going to a garage sale.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Okay. So when we started putting our content in the platform, the experience actually became much better. It was much more polished. You just click and got it. We were not asking you to.
So where were you sourcing that content from?
Oh, at the very beginning, we just started hiring illustrators, and we had absolutely no idea what was the price, what was the expected quality, nothing. The only thing that we got as information is that we got the logs in our search. Right. So we saw like lots of people searching for background, Christmas, and we started asking for this content very naturally.
Yeah, because you were getting user feedback saying this is the type of content people are searching for. Let's create the content people are searching for our own use.
And exactly. And at the very beginning, it was very, very expensive to produce this content. And as time goes on, we reach to like faster illustrators, people that were able to create this content cheaper and just in less time.
Mhm.
And we started actually hiring some of them, and we're starting to grow. We
Mhm.
started to grow. Actually, a hack that worked for us very well is that some of this content, we didn't publish it immediately. So something that we did is that we create an illustration or something that was really complex. And we actually got in touch with some bloggers,
Mhm.
and we gave them this content for their audience. So for
Mhm.
them, it was a very nice gift. It was something that was pretty expensive. They put it on their website, and very naturally, they linked to us saying, okay, thank you to Freepik for this freebie. And actually, this started to give us, to this help us improve on SEO.
Sure.
And
Yeah, because there's natural link building back in.
Exactly. So it's the right audience, yeah, and it was, a very good link. And then, like 1 month later, this content was anyway on our site, so it was
Mhm.
a win-win. It was a free, like marketing growth strategy. We
Sure.
we didn't have that terminology back then, but so that already tells you what's our channel. Like our main channel is SEO.
Mhm.
We never
Right.
did any paid campaign. We recently started doing some of that, but really our main channel is still SEO.
Mhm. So, but your model has changed again, where now you have a subscription version. So
You're right.
what was that time frame are we talking about? I mean, you've been in business since what time? And then when did you evolve into creating your own content to, again, adding this new model?
So we started creating our own content 3 years after we started,
Mhm.
roughly. Okay. And 4 years after we started, we created our own subscription.
Mhm.
Okay. How it happened is here in Europe, we have this stereotype of Germans being square. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know if that translates to the US. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. It's a universal constant, being square.
Yeah, exactly. And they are actually pretty square. So what happened is that one of our German visitors, he actually called us on the phone.
Mhm.
Okay. Because you could download everything that was on Freepik, but there was a restriction, is that you had to link to us if you use it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So this German gentleman, he called us and he explained his situation. It was, he wanted to get married. He was gonna get married, and he wanted to use one of our illustrations in his wedding.
Mhm.
Okay. But it was not proper for the wedding to have a design by Freepik there. He wanted to remove that attribution. And on the phone, I just say, okay, take it out. I mean, it's very easy. Just click on the layer, delete it. No big issue. Then, no, but that goes against the terms and conditions. It was like, yeah, I mean, no one cares. Just delete it. I mean, it's okay. And he was, no, it's not okay. I need to sign some. And it was like, dude, just take it. But he was very insistent. And, we realized that for a proper business, you actually cannot do that. You cannot just ignore the terms and conditions.
Right.
So we created a subscription, and the only added value at the beginning was you have exactly the same content, but if you're a subscriber, you are allowed to use it without linking to us.
Right.
Okay.
And how much was that subscription to start with?
I mean, at the very beginning, it was nothing, but because you need to wait for some months, for it to accumulate. So
Right. Yeah.
I think the first, but it was very quickly something important. I think the first month was something like 20K,
Mhm.
but it accumulated very quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was we started putting a big screen with a little ring every time we made a sell, cling, 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 cling.
Mhm.
And very quickly, after 2 weeks or something like that, we had to take it down because it was too noisy.
Okay.
It was really nice. It was really nice.
Yeah. So then, but that's not free, and it didn't stay free.
Say that again?
It did not stay free, the subscription.
Yeah. No. But the subscription was not free. You had to pay for the subscription. But the thing is that with the subscription, you had access to exactly the same assets.
Right.
That
You just could
a
remove the
non-subscriber.
rights.
It was just the license that was
Yeah, yeah.
different. But and then we started adding more value to the premium side. We selected a fraction of our content and we made it subscribers only. You know? At the very beginning, we got some complaints like, yeah, you keep the best stuff for the subscribers. And then, and actually it was at random. It was completely like 20% at random from the total collection went to subscribers. And then, you know, the next natural step is that once we got like a marketplace, so to say, with our content, I mean, let me say that in a different way. Once we had like a subscriber user base, okay, with our content, we created a marketplace. We allowed like third parties to put their content there, and we took a fraction of the
Sure. Yeah. So, which is kind of interesting because you kind of opened that up to how you started.
Yes.
Right. Because I mean, you were pulling in other people's content, and now you're doing that kind of this way too. I mean, there's obviously more of a transaction involved and they're opting in, whereas that in your original model, they weren't necessarily opting in. Well, that's kind of interesting. So what percentage or proportion of your catalog is your content versus marketplace comment? Do you have any idea how big that is?
Yeah, sure. It depends on the content type. If we're talking illustrations, photos, or icons. Okay, so on illustrations, it is roughly like 75% is other people illustrations, and roughly 25% are our illustrations. Okay. On icons, it is more like 50-50. Like we have a higher proportion. It is a little bit more than 50% on our side. It's maybe 60 something. Okay. And on photos is way more third parties than our own photos. You know, what we found out when we went to new content types, you know, something that we learned is that you have to understand each content type. Each content type is different and needs to be handled in a different way. So the big difference with photos is that you cannot shoot photography for a worldwide audience from here, from Malaga. It doesn't work. The people are different. Furniture is different. You know, how you dress, everything.
Yeah, well, I've noticed like when I see the stock photo sites, even the license plates on cars, you know, the European style is like a rectangle, and in America, it's different. So it doesn't
work. It doesn't work. You really need to go there, you know, and make something local. However, with illustrations, it works pretty well. You know, illustrations, you have some cultural differences, that's true. But you can actually, you know, understand them and produce them from a single location. So naturally, our model of like, well, we are cheap, we make our own illustrations, and we offer them like for free. It worked very well because we were working with illustrations. I don't think it will have worked with photos.
Okay, so you've got this photography library that is not something started, which has grown. Do you see? I'm just curious about the usage among your customers, right? I mean, are they typically come for photos and stay there, or is there a crossover between the illustrations and the icons and the photos? Because what I'm seeing from my end is there is this sort of convergence of illustrations, graphics, and photography kind of melding together when people are creating content, because they're used to doing it on social media, right? They're used to adding stickers and graphics to photos all the time now, and the people are expecting to use it. Are you seeing that among your audience?
Yes, to some extent. Like some of the users certainly want exactly that, right? They want to blend together different images, and it doesn't matter if it's a photo, an illustration, icons, stickers, whatever, right? And this is part of the audience. But then there's some other part of the audience that is more professional. And it's, you know, when you are actually creating yourself an illustration, it is very useful to use Freepik because you can download and use different elements that you are gonna modify and blend together into your creation.
Right.
Okay. So that's more the typical use case in Freepik, rather than more than a content creator, is more like a professional illustrator that
Sure.
uses our content. Okay. Or more, it's very typical to have freelancers that work for other companies.
Mhm.
We do not have that many prosumers.
Right.
Okay. We are starting now to serve this segment with Freepik, which is our last tool, okay, which is an online tool where you can access all our catalog. But in Freepik, it's more like people that want illustrations and they want to work with them. Okay,
Right.
it's a little different.
Okay. So do you think your customers or clients or subscribers are, when they're using a illustration, their intent is, like you said, to modify it, right? They're going to use it as inspiration, use it as an element to something else. Do you see that same behavior on the photo side, or do you think people are just saying, I need a great photo of a beach in Spain, here it is, and they find it?
I mean, you nail it. In photos, it's different. In photos, people want the photo just. I mean, it is very difficult to modify substantially a photo without destroying it.
Right.
Right. So typically, people want the right photo,
Mhm.
and either it is or it is not, but
Mhm.
there's no middle ground. With illustration, you have, you can modify it a little bit, so you can work a little bit with that. Then there is a big difference. Just to clarify, we're much stronger on illustrations, and people mainly come to Freepik to download illustrations. Photos for ourselves is it's a fraction of the
Yeah.
total. It's a sizable fraction. It's something
Yeah.
like 20%.
Yeah.
Okay, of our total downloads,
Mhm.
but it's not as big as illustrations.
Right, but what I'm saying is that because there is sort of a crossover there, right? So if people already have a Freepik subscription, it certainly is something as a value add that they want. So let's talk about subscriptions. You've recently reached a milestone of how many subscribers?
We went over 500,000 subscribers.
In what amount of time?
Well, we started getting subscribers, I think it was in 2015.
Okay.
So it is already close to 6-7 years.
So, and you've kind of done it the old-fashioned way, right? In the sense you're trying to grow, you kind of created a business and you've been growing organically. Like you said, you haven't been out there buying subscribers and doing crazy things. You've just been basically running your business and people are finding you.
Yeah, exactly. We until I think it was 2 years ago was when we ran our first ad campaign. And honestly, for us, it is not a big channel. It is, we don't know how to use this channel.
So what are the specific segment or sites that you have? Because, Freepik is sort of the one everyone, but you also have icons and some other. So are those sub brands within the Freepik environment, or how do you structure that?
Well, Freepik is becoming like our one-stop shop little by little. It started hosting the illustrations. It also hosts our photos, and it hosts some of our icons. The integration with icons is not yet, very good. We had like a different brand for icons, which is Flat Icon, which is really specialized on icons. And we have a different brand for presentations, like slideshow, which is Slideshow. Okay, it's became very, very popular. So just to give you some, rough idea of the size, typically Freepik, it's at around 25 million monthly visitors, roughly between 25 and 30.
Sure.
Okay. Flat Icon, it's gonna be at 6-7 million monthly active users, and Slideshow, it's now at 9 million, roughly.
Okay. So I would not have expected there were that many people interested in icons. That just amazes me.
Actually we are like the first player in the industry by far, in all countries worldwide except in the US, where we are actually tied with 2 or 3 other players in the US. But outside of the US, we have more than double the traffic than any other player.
Well, that's interesting. So what is the path forward in the sense you've kind of, there's video, there's audio, there's other assets to address this market you could be approaching. Are you at liberty to talk about where you may be going next?
Sure. Well, we are experimenting a little bit with videos. We started a video site, which is VidFi. But this is still like us learning a little bit about the medium, okay?
Sure.
And the other big bet that we made is Weebig, which is there are many, many people coming to Freepik that want to use our assets, but they do not have the technical skills to use, right? So Weebig is an online tool that allows you to use everything that there is in, not yet everything. We're starting to build a site.
So how is that different? Because I saw that on the site, and to be honest, I was unsure of how different that was from Freepik was Weepik. So how is that different?
So today they are pretty different, right? Okay. Today Weebig has an exclusive set of templates. They are like printable illustrations. Okay. So, to get your, it's things are meant to be printed roughly. Okay? Right. And so, and they are especially created for Weepik. So it is still like a tiny subset of everything that is on Freepik. A challenge that we have is that the things that are on Freepik, they are not meant to be easily modified. Right. Okay. So when we try to translate that to an online tool, we face challenges, like things are not properly done so that you can change it. And we are working on that. So we are working to make more of the content that we have on Freepik editable. Right. And Freepik is more focused on the professional that just wants the content, that has tools to use this content, like Adobe Illustrator, and he or she is comfortable with those tools. Sure. And Weebig is for those users that are not
casual users.
Exactly, casual users.
So you've got some tools built in there for modifying, adjusting fonts and things. So that's a pretty hot market right now. There's a lot of people who are addressing that market because there are a lot of people who are creating content, like you said, for printed purposes, maybe a poster for a school or something like that. And they're not going to fire up Adobe Illustrator. They're just not going to do it. They're not going to have so I think it's addressing an interesting market. So
it is growing very quickly. Something that we learned over the years is that you need to know your medium. Okay, there are many subtleties, and we are still learning what people want there. So where I see a gap in the market is that for little companies, it's still difficult to make everything that you need for your business. Sure. Okay, with a coherent style. My wife has a cafe, and she struggles with that, right? Sure. Even if you have like an easy to use tool to draw things, you actually need so many things, and all of them to be consistent. It's still a challenge. So I think there is a gap in the market there. Sure. And a strong point that we have is that as we have so much material, we can reuse it very quickly, for different purposes. That's what happened with Slidesgo. Slidesgo, again, Slidesgo is a product that has been very successful in education. Okay, and actually we created so many slides, so many presentations, because we had so much content already, on our platform. So people doing those presentations, they were just, dragging stuff and turning one after the other presentation. So it was a very fast creation process that allowed Slidesgo to just go in 3 years from 0 to 9 million monthly active users.
So it seems to me like the constant among all of your evolutions between your different businesses is really you're driven by your users. It seems like you're really taking into account what your users are actually doing, as opposed to focus grouping it. People are telling us this, so we're going to build it. You're actually reacting to how people are actually interacting with your platform.
Yes, I mean, Slideshow started like that. It was not, it was not our natural next step. Our natural next step, looking at competitors, it would have been going after video or audio or something like that. Yeah, that's what everybody was doing. Actually, looking at what people use the images for, we realized that many of them uses those images to make presentations. That's why our next step was to build presentations.
Right.
So, our rationale was, okay, let's make the whole thing so that it is even closer to the end product. And it worked very well. So we try to stay close to that, like look more to your customers rather than to competitors.
So how is your staffing grown? It was started with just you and your buddies, and now how big is your team and where are they located? Are they all in Spain or?
Now we are close to 400 people. Most of them are in Malaga. I think we are here. I mean, now with the pandemic,
yeah, it's hard to tell where people are, right?
It's difficult to count them. But I think we are 320 people here in Malaga. And then we got like around 50 people around Spain. And then outside of Spain, we have like 30 people roughly.
Okay. So you're very, very much, you're not a dispersed company. So what is the company culture there then? Like if you are kind of concentrated, you're not dispersed around the world. Do you think that's an advantage to your company to be so close?
I think so. I mean, first of all, we try to respect like employees' wishes, right? With the pandemic, many people nowadays, they want to work remote and we are fine with that.
Yeah.
But like being close has some advantages. We try to use them. Like we are kind of luring people a little bit to the offices. So if you want to come, please come. There are different cultures. Some companies are a little bit more competitive. Some companies are a little bit more, let's say, family friendly and so on. We try to be family friendly. So more than half of our employees, roughly half, 52% are females, are women. And I think that, part of that is because we try to be family friendly. We ourselves have our families. And that's part of our culture, right? I don't know. I mean, you have to make that compatible with, having a good growth because we want to grow. We want to grow the company. But I think that's how it will define I didn't thought that much about that, like how it's our culture. It just it's like this story about a couple of fishes and one of them is, what is this water thing? It's difficult to explain because
it's just the environment you're in, right?
It's just where we are.
It never really occurred to you because like you said, you had a prior experience working in Zurich for Google, right? So you did experience another work environment. When you came back home, you said, well, we're going to do it here in this region, which I guess from what I've heard is kind of becoming a burgeoning tech hub a little bit, right?
Well, a little bit, and we were part of that. I mean, we are one of the biggest companies here in south of Spain. In a way, when we started, it was kind of virgin, right? It is, for those that do not know, south of Spain has around 8 million people, roughly. And there are not that many companies competing for this talent. Okay, so in a way, we got it easy. Like when we started growth, there was a pool of talent, of local talent that we can tap in, and there was not that much competition. Now, Google got in, and many other companies. There are more and more companies going local, which has pros and cons. Okay, I like it in a sense, like they are making like salaries higher. Okay, so that has some cons for us. But also some pros because you got more people with more experience, and that's good for the company. So in
Right.
general, I'm very happy with the outcome and how things are going.
Well, and you recognize there was talent there too. I mean, that was part of it.
Yes.
I mean,
I didn't choose specifically Malaga uh, because of the local talent. I did it for personal reasons. Uh, and Alejandro, which we didn't talk that much about him, but he was the one that actually got the idea. And we were all together, but he's the guy that the genius that thought first about Freepik. He's born here in Malaga. So it was not a conscious decision to go for Malaga because we were gonna be able to find so many employees.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It's just where we were, and we take it with the pros and cons.
Still, you've got a substantial number of employees from the region. Have you had to partner with like local educational institutions or anything like that to grow that employee base?
Yes, for the artistic side. So we did that for illustrators. Okay, this has been very successful. Not yet on the tech side. So on the tech side, a little bit. It's gonna sound weird, but we do that with high schools. There are like many people in high school that spend like 3 months here, and then they go to like high studies, maybe university, maybe some other formal studies, and very often they come back to us, and they're like, it is typically a very successful source of employees for us. So we did some of that, but in general, we still do not have like very deep roots with university or something.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's good. So where do you see the company going as it moves out of the pandemic and the worldwide economy starts recovering? What do you see for the outlook over the next 2 to 3 years for your type of business in the future, sort of the software as a service graphics business?
Well, I can tell you where are our gaps. Okay, where for example, something that is not a gap is icons. You look at worldwide searches for icons, and we kind of dominate almost worldwide. Okay, so there is not that much room to grow there. Still, like photos, we are growing there very strongly, and we are like, I think for next year we expect to double, and then we need we need quite a few doubles to get to the size of something like Shutterstock. And our intention is more to grow smart, to direct production and purchases of content to cover the gaps in our offer, to not go, free willing, not just get everything and just a high number of results. We are selecting the content to cover the gaps that we have in our offer. Okay, that's one of the goals that we have, because we don't think that in the short term we can compete in total number of results.
Right.
Okay.
So you're being more strategic as opposed to just doing dumps.
Yes, exactly. And then something, in my opinion, we have a huge opportunity in education. It is still kind of untapped. And we see that with SlidesGo, where we're just starting. It has been very well accepted by educators worldwide. And I think there are still like so many features that we can add to this product. So for once, something that I see on the next couple of years coming is some integration of our offers. So you have Weepik, for example, which is an online editor. I can see a short-term future in which SlidesGo, which uses Google Slides, SlidesGo can use our Weepik editor inside the SlidesGo.
Right.
Okay. And maybe people will like to edit illustrations directly in Freepik and have some other content on Weepik. Right. So, my intention is a little bit to unify a little bit all the different projects that we created over the years.
Because you are seeing cross-pollination among your users. So in some cases, you've got, people who are using illustrations, and for them to do edits, they've got to download it and do it in Illustrator or something. And whereas in another section, they can use a Freepik editor, right?
And every time they have to switch product, you are adding friction to the process.
Right.
Okay,
so reducing friction and being strategic is the future.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Joaquin, for spending time with us and sharing your business and your vision. And hope you have a great week. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure, Gary. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Pixel Society podcast. Read more great stories and sign up for the newsletter at www.thedeadpixelssociety.com.